What's up, YouTube? So, I had recently seen the Fantastic Four movie about 3 times now with some notes in here. So I just want to go over the movie and talk about the spoilers and give my thoughts on the movie. The movie does open up with the Baxter Building in full display in New York City. We see Reed Richards is looking for something in the bathroom, and Sue Storm so happens to be in the bathroom as well, taking a pregnancy test. So then she comes out and shows the pregnancy test to Reed Richards to reveal that she's pregnant. That, of course, excites the couple. So after Sue Storm reveals to Reed Richards that she is pregnant, that does excite the couple. And they go out and do their thing, and they reveal that the Fantastic Four has been a thing for a while on this new Earth called Earth 828. So this is not the Earth 1999 like in previous Marvel films that we know. We see them suit up as astronauts. It's kind of like a flash sequence of the Fantastic Four before and after they get their powers in space, which I thought was a cool scene because they don't have to waste the first 30 minutes showing the full origin. So we kind of just jump right into it because we know that they obviously become astronauts embarking their mission to outer space, and then they gain their superhuman abilities from cosmic rays in space. So upon returning to Earth, they become the Fantastic Four and they become the Fantastic Four in fight crime and become superhero, and they've been doing it for many years. So at some point they become celebrities, and many people consider them the world's greatest protectors at this time. So during a family dinner that we see, it's pretty much the scene from the trailer where you see the Thing trying the food and tasting it, saying it's good, and he's with Johnny, and Johnny is kind of being goofy in the kitchen. Sue and Reed Richards are kind of being weird and secretive at first, but then it's the Thing, Ben Grimm, who reveals, hey, I know that you're pregnant. I can tell because you can't keep it a secret. So they reveal that she is having a baby. The family does get excited. Months later, the Silver Surfer, female Silver Surfer, suddenly appears in New York City. She announces that the people of Earth have been marked for destruction by the planet-devouring cosmic being known as Galactus, and their planet must submit. So basically she lands on planet Earth, basically threatening the civilians and the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four pretty much try to figure out what this threat is. The Human Torch I thought was really cool because he immediately flamed on and chased after her as she was on her way to try to retreat back into space with Galactus. So when you see him eventually leave Earth's atmosphere, he starts powering down because I guess he can't contain that flame on while in space because space is so cold. It's like negative however many degrees. So he eventually ends up on the female Silver Surfer's surfboard. Like, he has his hand up on it because I guess she was trying to allow him to catch up to her, and she eventually just says something to him in her native language and then eventually just knocks Johnny off of the board. She escapes and he goes back to Earth, explaining that he did meet with the female Silver Surfer and she spoke to him face to face, like in his language. Of course, Mr. Fantastic didn't want to hear it because it sounded so goofy based on how Johnny was explaining it. During that same time, they decide that they have to study all these different anomalies involving the disappearance of planets. So they deduce that they have to negotiate Earth's fate with Galactus, basically trying to see if they can save the Earth, talk Galactus down into not destroying their planet. So eventually they embark on their plan. It's a 16-hour plan. It was originally supposed to be 20 hours, but 16-hour plan to go into outer space so they can bargain. They have like a press conference and they let the people know that they're gonna go bargain and save the day and fight and defeat Galactus, which I thought was kind of a bad idea, and I'll get into that later. So eventually they do track the female Silver Surfer's energy signature to a distant star system. The planet they encounter is immediately destroyed by Galactus' ship, and the team is captured. Eventually, Galactus offers to spare Earth in exchange for Reed and Storm's unborn son, Franklin Richards, as he senses an immense power within him. He's supposed to be this really strong cosmic being. I thought it was interesting. I guess Galactus is able to like induce Sue to go into labor because she was pregnant in the beginning of the movie, right? So Galactus was basically able to, he like made his eyes glow you see you basically see him look into Invisible Woman's eyes. Her eyes glow purple, and then out of nowhere, she just immediately starts screaming, and the baby's coming. So basically he was able to induce labor. So that was kind of interesting. The team then refuses, and Mr. Fantastic is trying to say to Galactus that you can't have our planet and you can't have our son either. So then they have a lengthy escape from Galactus and the female Silver Surfer right on their tail. And the female Silver Surfer basically is trying to 1v1 Johnny at first. Johnny is basically trying to use his flame powers to attack Galactus, and Galactus is not really fazed by it at all. So then that's when he ends up getting hurt by both Galactus and Silver Surfer and has to be saved by the Thing. The Thing goes and grabs him while Sue and Reed make it to the spaceship, and once they make it to the spaceship, that's when they're able to put it into like a F1 overdrive, and they're able to go through a black hole and escape the Silver Surfer who's chasing behind them. And that black hole basically allowed them to escape Silver Surfer, who was right on their tail, while the Invisible Woman, who was still pregnant, basically used her powers of invisibility to hide the ship so the Silver Surfer couldn't find them. So it was a really cool scene. Felt like something out of Star Trek. I'm not really somebody that likes Star Trek at all. I don't really like Star Trek like that, so I thought that was still cool regardless. So eventually on the flight back to Earth, Sue does give birth while they're in space. And of course she's like, this is not how I would have imagined it. But Reed Richards' suit assures her that everything will be all right. They'll make it work because, I mean, you can't, the baby is coming, so you can't just stop it right there. So Franklin Richards is born, and they had a bad press conference when they came back, because this is where I thought that was a bad idea earlier from them deciding to want to have a press conference, because they told the people that they were going to defeat the Galactus and save the day. And for whatever reason, these people are not dependent on themselves. They're 100% completely dependent on the Fantastic Four, which is kind of ridiculous. There's no army or nothing like that, no police or anything like that. It's just Fantastic Four, but whatever. So the people got upset because the Fantastic Four didn't defeat Galactus, but Johnny chimed in and said, oh, not yet. Not just yet. But the people got upset because Galactus was going to try to destroy the Earth, because he wanted too high of a bargain price. And that high of a bargain price was basically in exchange for Franklin Richards' life, their baby. He wanted him because of the cosmic power that he is going to wield when he gets older. And obviously they didn't want to give up their son, which is understandable. You don't want to give up your son for any reason. That's your son. So the people got upset, and you see things on the news of people turning their backs on the Fantastic Four, saying that they're fearing Galactus's arrival and they need to really give up their son to assure the life of Earth, so Earth isn't destroyed. Some messed up stuff like that, which I get it on a grand scale, but if I was in the Fantastic Four shoes, I'm definitely not giving up my son. So eventually Sue Storm decides to go and do another press conference where she gives a speech where she declares that they will do whatever is necessary to defeat Galactus, and that pretty much gets the people back onto their side, like, okay. Which I thought that was kind of dumb too. It wasn't realistic, because at first they're saying they can do it, then they can't, now they can. So the people were kind of unrealistic to me, but moving on. So Reed says that he is devising a plan to move Earth away from Galactus's reach via teleportation from a device that he made. Earlier in the film, he came up with a device which allows for organic matter or materials that's solid to be completely teleported from a certain distance away. And we see him present this presentation earlier in the movie with an egg that he teleported away from himself over to Herbie, which is the robot. He teleported the egg over to Herbie's side of the table on a different earlier in the movie. So basically he was going to do that same technique with Earth, which I thought was pretty interesting. He was going to try to transport Earth away from Galactus's reach, transporting it a distant galaxy many light years. So then they get this plan started up and they try to activate the bridges to where they could have all of the Earth pretty much everybody all over the world simultaneously turn off their electricity so they could power up this machine, because the machine needs as much electricity as it can. Pretty much power up this machine so they can take the Earth and move it to a further part of the galaxy out of Galactus's reach. However, during this time, the female Silver Surfer comes and starts destroying some of the bridges, starts destroying the machine. She flies straight through one of them and destroys it. So then the Human Torch once again powers up and tries to attack her and stop her from reaching the last bridge in the Times Square. He did learn from the language that she had spoken to him earlier in the movie and identifies her as her real name, Shala Ba, who willingly became Galactus's herald to help out her own world, Zenn-La, from the same fate. So basically, she had a nervous breakdown, which was kind of funny but stupid at the same time. And then she flees. She leaves the movie. So after that, they decide to use Franklin Richards as bait while Galactus eventually finds out about the Silver Surfer's failure to do her part. So he decides to pull a Thanos and do it himself. And Galactus was really ominous and threatening. I loved how Galactus was portrayed. He decides to come down from the clouds, from the cosmic clouds and space, basically. You see him get off of his chair and jump down into New York City. You see that basically Galactus towers completely over the entire city. He knocks over one of the buildings. When he jumps off of his ship, or when he jumps off of his chair, landing into New York City's lake, he almost darn near creates a tsunami that could have flushed away most of the citizens. But luckily enough, prior to this happening, Mole Man, he was able to help out the Fantastic Four, because earlier in the movie there was a during the flashbacks or whatever, he was a villain that they had defeated. He ended up leaving prison on good terms or whatever. So he's kind of like an anti-hero in this case, kind of like, think of M'Baku from Black Panther. So he was able to help out the Fantastic Four by evacuating the citizens of New York to his underground, the Subterranea. So the plan fails and Galactus takes Franklin from the team's headquarters, the Baxter Building, because that plan of theirs, basically to use Franklin as bait, failed because Galactus, when he was ravaging through the city, he was able to use his X-ray vision to see that, no, Franklin Richards isn't actually right there. He's actually in the Baxter Building. So he turns around. And I like how he wasn't stupid. He didn't step in the trap or nothing like that, because that would have been too easy to defeat Galactus. So he immediately walks towards the Baxter Building. And eventually that's when you see when the Fantastic Four get in their Fantastic Four car, which is comic accurate. The Fantastic Four car that they do drive around, and it does fly. They eventually try to make their way over to Galactus to retrieve Franklin before he does. Galactus does get there first, but then Mr. Fantastic gets there. He does succeed in getting Franklin away from him, but then that's when Mr. Fantastic gets grabbed up by Galactus, and he grabs him like one of those rubber chickens and just tries to stretch him almost to rip him in half almost. And he almost succeeds at it, but at the last moment you see Johnny Storm, aka Human Torch, and the Thing. They're flying at high speed. He's carrying the Thing at high speed, and he's saying, you gotta say it. I want you to say it. Are you gonna say it? No, I'm not gonna say it. Are you gonna say it? I don't want to say it. Say it. Okay, fine, I'll say it. It's clobbering time. Uppercuts Galactus, knocks Galactus over, freeing Mr. Fantastic. So that was a great team. It was a great team up / teamwork effort. I like seeing that. Eventually, Sue Storm starts using her powers to try to push Galactus into a portal. They basically try to salvage some of that machine that was destroyed by the Silver Surfer and use it as a teleporter and teleport Galactus away. So then Sue Storm basically uses her powers to push him in. The team is doing everything they can to keep Galactus subdued. The Human Torch almost kills himself doing a supernova almost attack that it was almost like a self-sacrifice to push Galactus into the portal. However, that failed too. And with Sue Storm almost exhausted, out of nowhere, Shala Ba, Silver Surfer, comes and stops him, sacrificing herself instead. knocking Galactus and herself in the portal, teleporting them both away. Galactus basically does get transported away. He doesn't get defeated by the Fantastic Four like that. They do a good job with the teamwork when it comes to basically fighting against Galactus. However, I thought it would have been cooler if this female Silver Surfer wasn't here. So let's just move on. So with Sue, it looks like Sue is dead because of the powers, because of her exerting herself. But Franklin Richards was placed on Sue's chest, and he used his newly awakened powers to resuscitate her. So then everything is all in well, and the team is celebrated for their victory. So that is the end of the movie. We do get an end credit scene where it takes place about 4 years later. Sue is reading to Franklin in the Baxter building, and when she leaves the room for a second, she comes back into the room only to see a green cloaked man holding a metal mask interacting with Franklin Richards, and obviously that's Dr. Doom. So that was a cool after credit scene. I knew it was gonna happen only because they said that Dr. Doom would appear. You don't see his face, so it probably wasn't really Robert Downey Jr. in the costume. It was probably just a stunt guy, kind of like how if you watch Arrow, some of those episodes where they brought Deathstroke back where he never took the mask off and never spoke, it was probably just a stunt guy wearing the suit and not the actual actor. I just kind of went over the plot. I do think that the movie had a great aesthetic. I like that it took place in the 60s. It had a very unique opening. I like the fact that the team, it mainly did focus on the team. It didn't have any other side characters that they tried to focus on. I did say that I wasn't a fan of Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. I still don't think he's the best person to play Reed Richards, but I think he played him well. He came off as just a regular straight guy, scientist that's intelligent. And I like some of the words that he spoke of wisdom in the movie. So I can't remember one of the quotes that he said, but it was a smart quote he said when he was talking about self-sacrifice towards the end of the movie, when he wanted to sacrifice, when he was willing to sacrifice himself for Franklin. So he is a very intelligent character, and I look forward to him in Avengers Doomsday. Vanessa Kirby was a decent Invisible Woman. She was like a motherly type character. I thought that she was gonna overtake the team and be like a Mary Sue or insufferable girl boss, but luckily she wasn't, because she was kind of still just focused on being pregnant and kind of being like the mother to the team, kind of like Katara from Avatar Last Airbender. I thought that she was done well, and she was pretty strong in this movie like she should be. She was using her powers really well. Scenes like in the montages when they were fighting villains, there was a destroyed train and building. She was able to use her telekinesis to put the train back together, and then Johnny Storm was using his flames to basically the metal together, so the train basically the train was fixed or whatever. So that was cool. The Thing was probably my favorite character in this movie because he was transformed into this movie as the Thing. He had the iconic eyebrow. He looked just like how he does in the comic book, as opposed to the Michael Chiklis Thing from the 2005 movie. He just looks like somebody wearing a suit or whatever, kind of like Big Mama from Big Mama's house. The Thing was really great. I would like to see him interact with the Hulk. Hopefully, that would be crazy. He had a lot of cool things that he did in the movie, like when they fought that monster that was supposed to be from the Fantastic Four First Steps pre-comic that came out. That's supposed to be a pre-comic to the movie. It was a green monster that we see in one of the montages in the movie, so that was cool too. He is kind of like the tech guy, like how he is supposed to be, great with technology. He's the intelligent pilot. They didn't make him just some stupid brute or anything like that. He was way cooler than somebody like Smart Hulk. So I did like Ben Grimm's Thing. The Human Torch was okay. I like Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things when he played Eddie. I just think he was just, he worked. I don't have nothing negative or anything else positive to say. And to me, one of the things that did not work was the female Silver Surfer, Shala Ball. No disrespect to that actress because she was just taking a job, but we did not need a female Silver Surfer. That absolutely almost destroyed this movie, but luckily she wasn't in this movie that much. She only had about maybe 20 minutes of screen time in this movie. The movie was about an hour and I want to say 49 minutes long. I'm not counting the after credits, but she wasn't in the movie that long, so that's why the movie wasn't completely ruined, in my opinion. We did also have the Mole Man. He only had a few scenes. The owner and human ruler of Subterranea, underground society, whose inhabitants refer to themselves as Moloids. They were cool, or he was okay. I like that they made him kind of like M'Baku, like an ally, even though he still doesn't really like the Fantastic Four like that. Galactus was probably one of my favorite new villains in the MCU. Ominous, threatening. When he first came down to talk to the Fantastic Four, when his eyes lit up, when you saw his helmet move, his eyes open, you saw the purple irises. This is Galactus. Ralph Ineson does a great job with Galactus, who's basically a gigantic cosmic being who consumes life force planets. He was the sole survivor of the dead planet that existed before the creation of Earth 828. I thought that he was really ominous and threatening. I would like to see him show up in another Avengers film. We probably will, because I know a lot of people complain they didn't really like how they used Galactus at first, but you know, to me, you either go big or go home. But I think we will see him again in some kind of Avengers related threat. But at the same time, he does fight the Fantastic Four. He is their main enemy, but then he does branch off to become super cosmic to be dealing with the Avengers and X-Men and everybody else. So in all, there's probably some things that I'm missing. I'll probably do another video. But I do believe that this is probably the best Marvel movie to come out in a long time. And this is something that SSJ doesn't say too often. And I like Deadpool and Wolverine. That was my favorite Marvel movie from last year. I think Fantastic Four might be my favorite Marvel movie this year. This movie, it felt just like a Fantastic Four comic from the 60s. The feel of it and the look of it, as far as the aesthetic goes. When you see the Fantastic Four within their Baxter building, putting on their suits, they kind of remind me of those dolls almost from the 60s, where they kind of look like dolls and they're wearing clothes. The whole vibe was great. I had a fun time with this movie. The only negatives was probably the female Silver Surfer. I think that it was just dumb when I was going into this movie, and still after the fact. We didn't need a female Silver Surfer. That was just for Disney to be like, oh, well, we need more estrogen energy. But we just didn't need this female Silver Surfer. And for the people that are going to try to defend Marvel and Disney and be like, oh, well, they're going to prepare us for the Norrin Radd Silver Surfer. That's stupid, because why not just give us the Norrin Radd Silver Surfer right here? And if I'm not mistaken, based on the flashback sequence in this movie where it shows Charlotte Ball on her planet with her daughter, where she becomes a herald, there's no man. Where's Norrin Radd? Because in the comic, she is married to Norrin Radd, but he doesn't become Silver Surfer. It's her that does. But she is married to Norrin Radd. But if you look up any Marvel information based on this movie or the MCU wiki, basically it's just her. No dad, no husband or nothing like that, just her and her daughter. I think we should have just gotten the Norrin Radd Silver Surfer straight up. It would have just been a lot more interesting to me. And yeah, those are just my thoughts on this movie. I liked how it further gave us more information about more devices and teleportation and technology that we may potentially see in the MCU. Because Tony Stark gave us time travel and repulsors and cool Stark tech. Now we're getting teleportation from Reed Richards. So we'll see him next. We'll see the Fantastic Four next in Avengers Doomsday next year. So what do y'all think? I give this movie a 8.5 out of 10. And let me know what you think.
She don't wanna be saved, don't save her. 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 She don't wanna be saved.